Peter and Susan Dowling are from Cloncurry, and Pete is the local stock and station agent. Susan works at the hospital, and they are part of the Sisters of the North team who have been raising funds for the Northwest Queensland cattle producers and families that have been affected by this recent flooding. Thank you both for being here today. I just want to give a little, for you, if it's okay, to give a little bit of background with the lead up to how this all played out, but particularly families going away after such a dry period of time.
Yeah, Kelly, we up here in the northwest, we basically live for the wet season. Mm-hmm. We obviously our seasons are revitalised by it, and that's what we wait. And this particular year, or last year, 2018, we had horrific summer temperatures. The Christmas break was a real hard slog. We were having dry seasons in parts around. There's places in drought. So yeah, we were busted from that. We were sort of like, that was a trial in itself. But we do what we do, and we have to. Most of our kids go to boarding school. So off we go. We had a little break at the beach, and looking back on it now, it was a really good break. We were actually relaxed for the it was not knowing what was around the corner. So maybe that was prepared for us. But we put the kids back into school, and it was time to come home. Peter goes on down to Tamworth as he does every year.
Yeah, so Tamworth's Australia
Landmark horse sale.
Yeah, so it's Australia's largest horse sale, and
that's right. And a lot of people up here actually included in their holiday.
Yeah, but a bit of a working holiday too, because they can restock their...
Connect up with everyone, have a week off, do a couple of days at the beach, put the kids back in school, and go and do Tamworth for a week.
So if it's dry, how difficult is it, and people really worried about leaving their places to head away when it's...
Yeah, well, they won't go away if it stays too dry.
Yeah.
Plenty of families, just the mother and the kids went back.
Yeah.
Put the kids in school, because it was just as we were putting the kids in school that it did just start to rain. So, I know families that the father stayed at home until they had a couple of nights of rain, and then good, we can get away. And came away and then planned their trip south for the week.
Yeah, yeah. So it just, everybody relaxes a lot more, and don't they? And
it's just a sigh of relief,
I
suppose. And I think the good thing about it, the bomb maps look good.
Yeah.
So the rain was coming, and it was all there.
Yeah. So everyone was sort of celebrating, weren't they? And
as you know, we all met up on
you were there.
on Wednesday night in Brisbane. We'd put the kids back into school, and it was sort of the end of the holiday, and it started raining, and it was like, whoa, this is good. And so
it's a sense of relief, and you can feel that within everybody, that they're just lighter hearted, and
it's probably a relief only a grazier knows.
Yeah.
That it's an ends to me, and it saves the whole year. It's the difference between a good year and a bad year, isn't it? In your whole thought process.
So Susan, you had to come home, but Pete, you ended up,
headed to Tamworth.
Thinking, well, I'll go to Tamworth. So what was it like when you arrived home, Susan?
It was great. It was raining, and I flew into Mount Isa and drove home that afternoon, and basically it was beautiful. It was just, the rain was here.
Yeah.
But within 3-4 days, we'd had our first flood at the back, because the rain was just didn't stop.
Relentless.
Yeah. But that's okay. And probably by about day 4, I felt a bit guilty by saying to Peter, I'm probably a bit sick of it. I just need a bit of sunshine to, so I can do the washing and get out and just get out of the house, because you're housebound. I was getting a bit of cabin fever, I suppose, but yeah.
And at that point, you still didn't realise what was to come, because
had no idea what was happening. The winds were picking up, and even overnight, they were becoming really cyclonic almost. They were just howling winds, enough to wake me up, and it was uncanny. It was it just kept going and going and going. Yeah.
So at what point do you think you realised that this wasn't just rain and we might be in trouble.
Yeah, from my point of view, being at home here by myself, there was.
You said to me it's got cold.
It was cold. I had the heater on. The mud boots had come.
So
back
did you
out.
worry about? Did that enter your mind that animals could start dying from exposure?
It never entered my mind
Because you'd never experienced that before.
No, and you think, oh well, it's had no inkling whatsoever.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't until about Tuesday I had gone out, because there was a little bit of talk. By Tuesday I went out because I hadn't seen our horses since we got home. We had a few of the younger horses here. I thought I'd go out for a ride on the bike, and managed to get myself bogged and had to walk home 2k's, but found the horses. They were okay, but there were some cattle in the yards, and they looked cold. They were just it was, because by that stage it was getting, what was day 4, 5, and the winds were picking up.
Yeah. So Susan's here telling you how much it's raining and how cold it is and how windy it is. So what were you thinking at that point?
Well, by about Tuesday, it was. The longer it went on, the bigger the rainfalls at night, weren't they? Mm. And then Susan said about the cyclonic winds, and she mentioned about the horses, and she'll go down and have a look. And I suppose no one really knew what was in front of us at that stage, but I was talking to people down there, and one particular client went for a fly on Thursday, and he saw...
Because it took that long before there was a break
couldn't get up in the air.
weather. So, that was in a helicopter?
No, he was in a small plane, and it was iffy, obviously, to go up then, but he did. And when he got back, the story he had was, I was down there with a good few people from up here, and as I said, there's more water up there than we realised. Let alone the weather event that had preceded it, that had caused more trouble than anyone knew until Friday. Yeah.
And then at that point, when everything, people started to worry, it was too late to get home, wasn't it? So they were stuck away.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything.
No, it was just constant. And you describe people of different demeanour overnight, basically.
Yeah, you watch people's emotions.
Mm. Because when you're, like, I know, especially if it's been really dry and it starts to rain, I just want to be at home. I hate missing the rain, because it's so lovely and everything is fresh and renews. And so for them to be away and having this happen, they just must have felt a complete sense of hopelessness and helplessness. But that's what these people up here would have been feeling too, because there was nothing
they could do.
No.
I think, particularly when the evidence started coming out about the loss of stock and horses, native animals. Like I had a kangaroo jump up to the back steps here because it was the only dry spot around that she could find. And she let me carry her away 3 times. She was that exhausted, that cold. Yeah. This is a native wild animal, and not of the wild, I should say. And that's never happened. But I think as the
reality of it started to set in, I think people went into shock for 2 or 3 days. That was obvious.
Well, it's just unprecedented.
Yeah, it was, and. As I said, there was a good few of us there at Tamworth. I reckon I had 7 clients there, and 5 had gone by Friday lunchtime. Yeah, they'd headed back. Not that they could get home to do much, but they just felt helpless being where they were. Yeah. So, and they were in contact with people up here, and of course then by Sunday, Facebook, the real stark reality of what was happening. Yeah.
The blessing, I guess, with having people down there, they were all together and they were all in the same boat, so at least they could talk about it. And
that was one thing about the situation, it wasn't isolated to a few places in the northwest. It had grabbed the whole area. There was no exceptions.
So with Sisters of the North, I just want to backtrack a little bit. So you were instrumental in forming Sisters of the North to start with, weren't you? Before all of this happened, so it was for completely different reasons. So tell me about that.
Yeah, it was the concept of the Sisters of the North was basically born out of the necessity of just getting people together, and we were sick of the dry times, and we thought, right, well, let's have a women's wellness weekend just to bring women together, and of course with the women, men get dragged along, and it was going to be about just being able to be together and just sort of, I guess, building a little bit of a few resilience tools in our kit just to sort of, be able to get on with what we're experiencing.
These families live hundreds of kilometres away from their towns and sometimes their neighbours, don't they?
That's right. So life in the bush can be isolating.
Yeah.
So it was just to create opportunities to get together and
So and horses do bring people together, don't they? And
well, that's right. We
up here they do.
Yeah, that's what the majority of people on the stations and around close to town.
Social functions revolve around it.
Yeah.
And that's our social fabric. That's it's really important that we keep these events happening. So we created this women's draft. Got a major sponsor on board to give us a good carrot, $10,000 worth, thanks to MMG.
So that was mining company just stepped up. So that's really great to hear that.
No, it's good. It's a good friendship between like camp drafting and mining. Yep.
So then, this disaster was playing out, and you quickly realised that you weren't going to be able to have the camp draft because there weren't going to be any cattle.
That's right.
So, what happened then, Pete?
Well, I suppose the beginning of it all was yourself and Jill Storman ringing myself with regard to what might be able to be done at the horse sale, which we obviously explored, and as a direct result of that, the connection with Kelly Shann, it was like everything was happening there all together, and out of it was the GoFundMe page, and Kelly said, what are we going to call it? And as the girls were working on the Sisters of the North for the drought weekend, I said, call it Sisters of the North, mate. We're already going to run a charity weekend on the 6th of April, so we'll just put that in. So we did.
There was no planning, was there?
Nothing. No, there was no planning for a disaster. It was as we found out with the legal process since then.
It's been a wild ride since, hasn't it?
It has.
But we had Australia got behind us.
Yeah.
And
that was the part that really took us by surprise. By Monday, we knew we had to get legalised in some form because people had just come forward so quickly.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't going to stop. And pretty much our funds haven't stopped since then, and the donations from all around Australia haven't stopped. And
so she's gone?
So Sisters of the North launched Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
With not a lot of thought. No one really knew what we were doing. Yeah. So Monday morning, we suddenly had $80,000.
Yeah.
And we started thinking, or you guys started thinking,
this was going to be a bit more serious than we thought.
Yeah.
People
bigger.
of Australia had really jumped into it. So I was in a car for most of Monday, so I got in touch with my accountant and asked him to get Sisters of the North charity registered, as a charity, get an ABN number, which he did.
So that all happened pretty quickly.
That happened quick.
Yep.
So
and
that's about the last time we were legal. Because everything that happened after that.
Oh, you couldn't plan for something like this.
Yeah, you can't. You can't plan for a disaster. So the process was given to us as 5 or 6 weeks before we were going to have an ABN number.
Yeah.
That made us DGR, which was obviously tax deductible.
You'd also that Monday opened up a trust account, hadn't you?
Yep.
Out here.
Yep. We'd done as much as we could.
So what do you mean we weren't, like Sisters of the North, weren't entirely legal?
Well, to be a charity and to be a tax deductible charity, you've obviously got to be incorporated as a charity, and you must have a board in place. And
so you've only found this out since?
Yeah. So what I did was basically register the most basic charity you possibly could and got an ABN number. With the GoFundMe page, of course, it's raising all the money. Until we were incorporated, until we had a board in place, until we had our ABN registered and had gone through that process, you legally cannot touch the money. And consequently, we haven't touched the money.
Which is probably quite fortunate.
Yeah, well it is. But
knowing what we know now.
Yeah, we knew there was a process. All we had to try and work out was, yes, we need to go through the process. No one is outside that part of the law, outside that boundary. So we knew we had the process. What we had to do was find a way to quicken it up. And thanks to some really good help from up in the PM's office, with the exceptional circumstances given to this fund.
Yes.
Because by the time it had got to registration, it was up to 300,000. Obviously, with the some big donations coming in on top of the GoFundMe. So it had reached a pretty creditable level. So, with the help of the people that we were working through the process, we have managed to get the legal process done in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which, given the scope of the legalities, is very quick. So we're hoping by early next week that the charity is a tax deductible charity, fully registered, and we can roll out the funds.
Systems go.
Yeah. So how difficult has that bureaucratic process been to put all this in place?
Oh, I can probably vouch for Peter. It's been an absolute mind wreck.
Yeah.
It's on top of what we've suffered ourselves with our own income loss out of this flood. We were basically people through our Sisters of the North concept. We're just people who are wanting to do some good. But
may I just break in there? That is the wonderful thing that has come out of this, that everybody's hurting out here, but everybody's trying to help everybody else. So what you two, like you said, your business is going to suffer, but this has totally consumed you these last few weeks, raising the money. So, sorry, continue. I just wanted to point that out.
No, it was. And I probably by last Friday, we'd probably just thought, nah, this is like, we don't have...
Hit a wall.
Yeah, the bureaucracy was just almost unreasonable with what we had to get through to put our intentions into fruition. And yeah, it was, anyway, with the support of, some great people in Prime Minister's office, it sort of kept us going, I suppose, when we did it.
Yeah, Deb Frecklington was very good, and
well.
We got a contact, and they realised the exceptional circumstances of it all. Obviously you can't sit out there and start a charity for a tragedy and then wait for the tragedy, can you?
Yeah.
So there is a certain amount of exceptional circumstances, but yeah, that 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
I guess we just didn't know what we're entering
No.
into. Like, out of what we were trying to do is some good, we just didn't realise that there was going to be some.
Yeah.
We were getting our own feeling of
battlefield
helplessness,
as well.
trying to battle through to get this done, and the cause was great. Everyone knew that.
Yeah.
But first contact says, "Oh, you'll be 5 or 6 weeks getting this through." Well, we haven't got 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
People out there just
People are giving
already
money, and they
suffering.
want to see it get to people.
Yeah.
We didn't have that time, and that was frustrating. And yeah, we hit a wall sort of at the end of last Friday, and just thought, oh, where do we go from here? So we just had to sit back and have a spell, and then go, right, we need help. We've got to get this through.
Yeah.
So we went through our contacts, and consequently it's worked pretty well to get us to this level anyway.
And that's another thing I've noticed is government have been very receptive, and from myself looking in, there've been a lot of barriers broken down. Like, you would never hear Pauline Hanson say that Scott Morrison's doing a good job, but she said that, and there's just it's broken down a lot of barriers, and so that throws a positive spin because everybody wants to do good. But I'm glad that you're not going to jail, that it's all sorted out.
Yeah,
Don't worry, that was part of the fine.
We thought, right, well, yeah. So you really don't get well. Let them try it. See what happens.
Yeah.
We knew we had the backing of
It was actually going to be an easier option there for a while, just for me to go to jail. Let the fund come through, and I'll take the time. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So we're going to find out from Clay Shann all about Live Voucher and the ambassadors that are going to find the people, but that must have been a consideration. You had all this money. How were you going to distribute it? Did that cross your mind? And
yeah, to work it out, it was, we always had to take a local approach.
Yeah.
And that's where the ambassador idea came up, because we're using people who are living in the community, have good contacts,
Local
are
knowledge.
approachable. It's local knowledge. So, and the Bush Telegraph, it really is quite effective.
Yeah.
It really is quite effective, and once these initial vouchers get sent out, people will start to talk about it,
Yeah.
and that people will be able to identify with the ambassadors, or
Because that's a huge thing, isn't it? Trying to find those people within the community, because you don't want to overlook anybody who might be suffering.
You don't, and this is a really fragile moment now. Like, people in the bush are reluctant to come forward. This is not a handout. This is basically a leg up. It's small item stuff. It's, we're not going to fix their big overall picture, but this is being able to give them some hope to be able to come to town to buy some small necessities at this stage. So, yeah, it'll just grow, because people will talk. We'll be able to have ears and eyes on the ground, not just even outside the ambassador program, because we're going to have, like, people will start looking out for each other, and then we'll trigger back to the ambassadors to make contact, or for those people to, if they do have the capacity to do it, to approach us or the ambassadors. It's a two-way street. We're going to be accessible,
It's going to be a lot longer term than we thought. We obviously can't give away 300,000 in 2 weeks. It's just not possible. And with the support starting to come to the charity, it's probably something that's going to be about for a few years, I'd suggest.
So you can see Sisters of the North evolving and being continued into the future.
I think the way it's going.
as a means of distributing necessary funding into our community.
This problem that we're facing here now, it just won't go on 6 months. These people are going to be fighting for the next 4 or 5 years. So, if the things happen with the charity that Susan's working on that could happen, it's going to put us in a position where, community events, schools are all going to be helped and supported by this fund over the next few years when they need it.
And it's probably not even this initial 6 months, it's probably going into the future, isn't it? When they, when they've spent all their cash
when they realise
in their accounts.
when they would have normally have sold
Cattle. They've got nothing to sell.
There's nothing to sell.
Yeah.
Who knows what the seasons are going to bring after all of this as well. There's that sort of.
This is, this could be this is a game changer in this part of the world.
And it's not just your problem, is it? It's all of Australia's problem, and people are stepping up, and that's we're trying to educate people in the cities, and that's important, because bush people can't keep propping other bush people up, because there's people who are in drought are so moved by what's happened here. They have so much empathy, and their generosity knows no bounds.
Yeah, it's quite humbling, Kelly. We know the rest of New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland's in a roaring drought. As bad as they've ever had it.
Yeah, but
And
they
they're still
feel lucky
supporting this.
compared to
And
what's
they're still
happened
supporting
here.
the people up here. It's quite humbling.
Yeah, so we just need to get a lot of, and it's difficult when people live in the cities that they can't relate to what's happened here.
No.
But it was a war zone, and it's going to take a lot of recovery. But there's a lot of people helping and supporting.
And look, the other aspect of all this is, of course, in mental health.
Yeah.
It's just the impact is expected to be significant.
So, Susan, when will that start to happen, do you think?
Well, already there's extra mental health services on the ground, but I think people at this stage, people are coming out of this short term.
They're busy.
Yeah, they're busy, but then people are handling it in different ways. Some have actually, not even there yet. Some have sort of picked themselves up and making a few decisions on how to get on with it. But having said that, from a professional point of view, the health services are expecting like peaks, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and then again in 2 years' time. Like this all operates around a cycle of grief, so to speak. So with that, and because my co-founder Jane and I were both nurses, and I also work in primary health care, Sisters of the North will also become synonymous with health, mental health. Not so much, not the delivery, but just being able to create events to bring community together. It's all about connectivity, basically getting people together to checking that we're okay. Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Thanks,
It's a long
Thanks,
haul,
Kelly.
but there's a lot of help
Yeah.
and support and a lot of understanding out there. You're not alone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please try to remember to just click on the subscribe button so we can keep you updated with everything that's happening. Thank you.